Welcome to the first video of 3 videos we're going to do for the Circle of Chords. This video is about what is the Circle of Chords. Well, the Circle of Chords is a way of organizing yourself when you play. No longer should you play just random chords, say on a chord chart, but instead this is a big picture view of how chords relate to each other in the key that you're playing. So for each key that you play in, you'll have a different set of chords. I recommend that you start getting good at the key of A, which will have its own circle of chords, the key of C, the key of D, the key of E, and the key of G. So spend time with those 5 keys understanding the circle of chords. The circle of chords is similar to other music systems related to the key that you're in, like the Nashville Chording System, and the Circle of Chords can be used this way. And we're going to get into the differences in the 3rd video. Today we're going to focus on what I call the Circle of Chords. The Circle of Chords allows you to see the perimeter of all the most common options of chords that could be in a certain key. Let's look at the key of G. The most common chords for the key, for any key, but for the key of G here, is the first chord. The first chord is what they call the tonic, or what you might call the root. It's the main note. So, the major chord that goes for that note, G major. The other most common chords are the 4th one, the 5th one, and the 6th one. First of all, what's with the circle and the dots? Well, how many dots do we have there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this is important, the 8th one is the first one again. 8, octave, oct is 8. So the 8th one is the octave of the first one. They're the same note. That's why it's in a circle. It forever goes up and up and up, or you can go down, 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 low. Each dot on the circle represents a note in the major scale. Dum. I'm singing a low G note. This one specifically. Dum. If I go da 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 da, for each note in that scale, there's a chord that represents it. And each chord along the circle fits within the major scale as well. There's no chords on the circle of chords that has notes outside of that key. So the very first question I ask myself when I approach a song is, what key is this song in? If I know that right up front, that immediately makes me think, okay, well, what's the first one? What's the 4th one? What's the 5th one? And what's the 6th one? Because guess what? I'm probably going to play those 4 chords. Let's just listen to how the 1, 4, 5, and 6 minor relate to each other. There's the 4, the 5, and the 6 minor, and then we can go back to 1 or 8, 1, 8, same note, right? So the first chord is the main chord of the key. Think of it like home base. And all the other notes are trying to get around those bases back to home base. It's the main thing, right? Everybody loves home base. So, the first one is major. The second one is always minor. It's the way that it fits inside the key. Those A minor notes are notes that fit inside the key, and I'm going to go over that in a second. So, I'm going to get into this more on the 3rd video, but in the circle of chords, I put what I call a 1 over 3, or in this case, a G over B in the 3rd position. The reason is because it's most commonly used in that 3rd position. It can be a minor chord for the 3rd. Other systems put a minor chord there. We're going to get into that later. So it's a G over B, which is a G chord. The first letter is the chord. It's a G chord, but B is the lowest note that we want to hear. It's like the bass note. So if you're strummy in the background, you see say G over B, you can just play a G, especially if you have a bass player or say a piano player, they're going to hit that low B. Doom. The third chord, the 1/3, works like a passing chord. Listen to this, from the 4 to the 3 to the 2 minor. It works like a stepping stone a lot of times. A 1/3 doesn't work as its own sovereign chord, but it depends on the motion before and after it for it to really make sense. By itself, it doesn't really stand alone very well. Let's move on to the 4. Bum, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, C chord. Commonly in the key of G, we play this C add 9. It's a nice chord. To the 5th chord, D, very common. E minor is the 6th one. Hear how it's going up. Bum, 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 bum. See? Told you it goes up in the major scale. So now we go to the 7th. This is another difference between the circle of chords and other systems. I put this as a 5/7, or in the key of G's case, a D over F sharp. It works like a stepping stone again. It doesn't work great as its own chord. You can't just hang there. It has a little dissonance in it. But listen to it. Walking down, say, from the 1 to the 7 to the 6 minor. It sounds good. So the 3 and the 7 chords I use as what I call over chords because they're most commonly the chords used in those positions. Okay, so let's get back to the point of how we said each chord fits within the major scale of that key. Almost all the chords in the circle of chords are what we call 1-3-5 chords. Their own 1-3-5. Starting with G, let's call it 1, because it is 1, but also it's its own 1. It's its own 1. So what you'll find on this chord is a 1 note and a 3 note and 5 note. So the G chord is made up exclusively of 1s and 3s and 5s, and if we went through all 6 of these strings, we would just find 1s and 3s and 5s and octaves of those notes. Bum, 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 1, 3, 5. In fact, we find a 1, 3, and 5 straight up on the top 3 strings. G, B, open D. So let's look at the next one, the A minor. We said all the notes in each of the chords are going to fit in that major key. Let's call the A its own 1. Its A is its 1. Okay, so kind of looking at the chord specifically, not at so much the circle of chords for the numbers, just for a second. 1, 3, 5. It's made up of its own A note and skip 1 to C note, skip 1 to E notes. It's just A's, C's, and E's all the way down. All right, this is where it gets fun. The 3 chord, we call it an over chord, and it doesn't work as its own chord. So the over chords get interesting because what chord did we say that third position, the 1/3 chord was? We said it was a G chord. It's a G chord. Everything about it is G notes. It has G notes, B notes, and D notes. The only difference is we're taking that low G, we're just taking it out, and we're focusing the bass or the low note in on the B note. It's still 1-3-5s of a G chord, but it just starts with B. Pretend like if we called the B the 1, we'd go 1, 3, instead of going 5, we'd go like 1, 3, 6. We'd go even further to reach out to grab that high G note instead of the F sharp note. That's where the minor chord comes in. A third position minor or a B minor would be B's, D's, and F sharps. That's the only difference between the 3 as a minor, the B minor, or a G over B, stretching out that high note up to the octave note. Let's go to the 4. The 4 is just its own 1-3-5. It's C, E, and G notes. The D is its own set of 1-3-5 notes, or take that note, skip 1, skip 1. You get D's, F sharps, and A notes in the D chord, and so on. So every chord fits within the key, and that's why our ear goes, oh, I like these chords. Even though there's 7 total options, all the chords fit nicely in the key. So real quick, let's just review. It's important to focus, especially as say, acoustic rhythm player, to focus in on those 5 main keys. Study the circle for each key. The key of A, the key of C, the key of D, the key of E, and the key of G. Start by memorizing the 1, 4, 5, and 6 minor of each key. And then say you can go out from there. In the second video, we're going to talk about how it's helpful. In the third video, we're going to get into the differences between the Circle of Chords system and other systems like the Nashville Chording System and the Circle of Fifths, how you can use it for keys. Thank you for watching. My name is Jacob Paul with Inside Out Studios. You can go to insideoutonline.com and check out the videos in an orderly way. You can download a free acoustic guitar guidebook, and I'll see you on video 2.